Um, Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kong. I'm from Mako, MAQO. Um, I'm delighted to be here to moderate these important sessions. Okay, for the title is Large-Scale Solar Projects in Asia, the current status and future potential. Okay, so as we look forward to, especially Malaysia, to achieve the National Energy Transition Roadmap, um, astonishing 70% renewable mix by year 2050, it's clear that um, the experts here are very important elements to make this a success. So today we are joined by experts across the industries who will help us understand the current landscape and what lies ahead. So without further ado, I would like to invite everyone to have a quick 1-2 sentence to introduce yourself and about what you do. Start from Dr. Lim, Dr. T.
I think, good morning, everyone. My name is T. I'm basically from Samaden Group Berhad. I'm actually holding the role of Chief Strategy Officer in Samaden Group. So basically, in the organization, I'm taking care of a few pillars. So that consists of strategy developments, merger and acquisitions, the other things like continuous improvements, and also some of the overseas expansions. So that's basically our role. And we are also one of the listed company in Malaysia. Basically, we heavily rely on the developments of renewable energy as well as the EPC role in Malaysia.
Good morning. My name is Glenn, CEO of Nifin. We are a renewable energy developer span across Pan-Asia, ASEAN, Taiwan, Greater China. We specialize in decarbonizing for corporates.
Hi, I'm Frank Constant from Constant Energy. We are an IPP solar, mainly solar base in Bangkok, and we operate in Thailand, Malaysia, Vietnam, and we focus on corporate PPA as a developer and investor, mainly for Fortune 500 clients.
Hi, my name is Dave. I'm from Ivy Vogue. We are mainly a European company, but we are focused a lot on APAC projects at the moment. In Malaysia, we have about 118 megawatts in Terengganu, and we're continuing to focus a lot more on projects across Philippines, Japan, Korea, Australia, as well as other parts of the region.
Good morning. My name is Nadrin Ibrahim. I'm from Immigrant Corporation. We are basically an investor developer of renewable energy, currently focusing on solar, moving onwards into the future into the other forms of renewable energy such as biogas as well as biomass. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Milan from ICO. We are the second biggest cell manufacturer now, moving into downstream into production of modules. We have the highest efficiency product in the market, and we are in addition starting an investment arm for project development. Yeah, that's pretty much.
Okay, and Marco, myself, we are EPC based in Malaysia. We have operation in Malaysia and Philippines, and also a developer. So, without further ado, I would like to split this panel discussion. Please chip in to 5 sections, as in the current status. And then the next is the opportunity, the technologies, innovation. The 4th is important, the policies and regulation challenges. And the last is what do you guys think about the future? Okay. So as for current status, probably anyone can take some comments about the market trends, and then what are the drivens, is it government drivens or private drivens in your part of the regions in Asia that you are operating in? I guess the floor here would like to know what's happening. Maybe Glenn or Frank?
Okay, maybe I will just start off. I think in recent months, particularly in Malaysia, I think the country has seen new programs coming up. I think the more recently and most anticipated was the TPA, or what they call this CRESS, CRESS. So much has been said about this during the last 1-2 months after the minister had announced. I think now the industry is basically looking forward to it. However, going to slightly deeper on this particular subject, there are still kinks to be worked on or worked around, especially in developing this into a reality. Primarily, from what we have seen from the documents that was published, they have already imposed such a very high, or should I call it, or reasonable, wheeling charges. So this is somewhat has put the industry, or rather the players, slightly at the one step behind, as far as the progress. I think in general, it is the right step moving forward. There are positives, obviously, coming from this program, because I think one of the things that when the government had announced this is that there will be improvements to be made to the grid system itself. There will be more, what do you call this, programs to encourage developers to come into the project, in terms of supplying renewable energy or low carbon energy. But I think one of the things that the industry, or rather the government, needs to look into more seriously is to attract more investors or players coming into. I think we are on the right path, but this is something personal to me. I think this is what government has to look into to improve. I think this is my taking point.
So any panelists, would like to differ or the comment of Nadreen?
Sorry. Well, I don't differ, but then I think to add on to the point, since we're talking about current issues, CGPP is one of the projects that has been not yet in the past, because we still see a lot of issues with developers trying to achieve financial close, a lot of issues with regards to credit risk or credit worthiness of the off-taker, as well as the parts of termination. So it's a bit unclear between CGPP and LSS. There's quite a big difference. So in that sense, in Malaysian context, policy is not the only driven factor here. Also come to the point of lenders and how the whole industry is actually yet to gel together.
See. So how about others, in other countries compared with Malaysia?
Perhaps I'll just chip in here. So we operate in several Southeast Asian countries. I think the third-party access is the topic of the day. With the need for electrification, the demand from industrial clients, from data center, there's a race to which country will be attracting this data center first. And guess what? I think if we let data center not be renewable, we are in front of an ecological disaster. So data center will have to be renewable 100%. And that's the best practice. Now, I think when we look at the different countries and which places we can allocate capital for this third-party access, I think Malaysia, as you, very correctly pointed out, was at an advantage with the CGPP, more earlier deregulation than other countries like Thailand or Vietnam. However, the recent, unfortunately, economically, the rates proposed are quite dissuasive. It's probably double what Vietnam and Thailand are proposing, actually. However, Thailand and Vietnam, I would say, are probably 1 year behind Malaysia in terms of the implementation, setting up all these detailed TPA. So there's a lot of details to organize, which still Malaysia has to go through, but certainly I think it's a bit of a missed opportunity on Malaysia. I think they've got to sort this out or reconsider the conditions for the wheeling, because I think today I don't see anyone investing, to be honest with you. Unless the data center are willing to pay more for green power than for brown power.
Yes, so like Frank mentioned, We have been hearing DPPA in Vietnam for many, many years. Can someone comment, is the DPPA still active or still in pilot stage, or compared with now, Malaysia have a very clear guideline of, we call it CRESS program? Milan?
It's finally on. This year it has been published, although it's very unclear. I think it's even more unclear than what it is in Malaysia. In Malaysia, there are a bit of uncertainties regarding, wheeling charges and whether that's going to be fixed or not. In Vietnam, the circular that has been issued doesn't really give any guidelines to EVN on what exactly to do. And so right now there is this circle of interest between MOIT, EVN, and then the industry on who takes what risk. Nobody can give you an answer on that. And so even though Vietnam started working on this back in 2018, 19, it took them 5 years to publish something, and it's not yet done. But it's clear that, as Frank mentioned, we have IT industry that is going to be a huge electricity demand in the coming years. It's all the AI coming in and everything IT, really. And that's going to be industry within the industry. It's going to be, there's going to be companies that are focused solely on servicing data centers, providing them with solutions, and that's going to be a big industry. That's going to be gigawatts, many, many gigawatts. And what I see right now is that still a lot of big corporates, IT corporates, are still wondering where exactly they should settle. And a few years ago, the best place was Indonesia. There was this economic zone in Batam where they announced big things. Nothing really happened with Batam. A lot of them came to Malaysia, actually. NVIDIA announced, Oracle, all those big guys came to Malaysia because they saw that there may actually be a little bit more progress on setting a base here, and particularly, I guess, energy plays a big role. Energy cost and also how clean the energy is. So I guess Malaysia will become a place where, depending on whether the third-party access works, we're going to see a lot of happening in the IT industry.
Okay. So while Malaysia, the players here are like having some opinion about the wheeling charges, seems like we are one of the fourth runner in TPA. So there's something that we should be grateful for. But as for we hope that actually the authority can be more transparent in how they derive the wheeling charges. What do you guys think? How to derive the wheeling charges? Why are they charging 45 cents? And 25 cents, kind of stuff. Any opinions on that?
Yes, on the wheeling charges. Yes, I think it's obvious. I think the public or rather the developers should be able to understand where this money goes to, for the firm and non-firm energy which is actually produced. Basically, this kind of charges are sending mixed signals. First thing, we want to know whether the money that is actually going towards paying, is it to upgrade the infrastructure? That's number one. But on the other hand, we also know from the government through the NETR, for example, they've made announcement that the government will give TNB a substantial amount of money, like something like 50, 60 billion to upgrade the facilities. So is this money going there for the purpose of construction or maintenance? I think this is something that the public needs to know. One of the things that we realize is that, if I'm not wrong, is that the REC is part of this. I may be wrong, but we also need to understand, because it just doesn't make sense at this current moment, current climate, because we are basically competing against fossil fuel industry, power generation system, which are all of us are actually the beneficiary of these subsidies. The government themselves, I think in Peninsular Malaysia, from my reading, is that the government spent close to 4 billion ringgit in giving subsidies to all of us here to enjoy. So on one hand, we are being wanting to supply low carbon energy, or rather renewable energy for industries who are wanting to consume this kind of power, but we are somewhat being penalized in a way, or rather the costs are being transferred to us developers to be more efficient. But on one hand, we have been so-called being asked to pay this toll, to supply this green energy to the consumers who want it. So this is something that we need to know. From that knowledge itself, we can be more efficient. As well as, this is also goes towards the government in trying to identifying why are the areas for them to be efficient as well, not only from us, from the perspective of developer.
So as everyone know, in Malaysia, for this, they call it CREST program, the TPA program, they only allow MV or HV high voltage user that have the additional load to qualify for this program. So this, in my opinion, is actually quite against for the call for companies to adopt renewable energies. What's the take of the panelists here? Compare with other countries' TPA projects, that do they have this kind of limitation? Maybe Glenn, your Taiwan experience?
I can speak for basically Australia and Taiwan. So Taiwan is actually even more advanced in TPA. I think they started pre-COVID in Taiwan. So this for Thai Power, when you build a project, Thai Power will give the first undertaking, meaning that of course at a lower rate, you can sell to Thai Power. And what Thai Power does is they don't want to take the liability as an agent, a broker. So they said that if you guys can talk to the corporate directly, go to the corporate. So it encourages a lot of folks like us to go talk to companies like TSMC, NVIDIA, and so on and so forth. So that got inspired in a very positive way, which make Taiwan a very huge RE market. That's for Taiwan. Conversely, here in Malaysia, the TPA looks like a TPA, but it's a very, very restricted TPA. Maybe we shouldn't call it even TPA. It should be one-party access. It's like single buyer access. Right? It's not even third party. It's one-party access. It's not. It's a very regulated, very controlled. So, in such kind of control regulation regime, for us as a foreign investors, I would have doubts to move into Malaysia because the future. Because okay, if I want to move into Malaysia, let's say I'm from China, I want to move my factory to Malaysia. The first thing I need to ask, can Malaysia give me enough green power? Maybe the answer is yes. Next, is it going to be cheap? Right? So if these two answers are maybe, then why Malaysia? Why not Thailand? Whereby BOI, Thailand BOI is very clear, 8 years, 8 plus 5. Huh? So the next is a question of MIDAS issue. So but anyway, having said that, the electric here is not more open market. It's not spot market or merchant market enough, making this very restricted. But having said that, to be fair to the Malaysia government agency, this is the first time they are doing. Maybe they just want to put in more regulations and framework and release slowly. They probably don't learn from the Vietnam market where suddenly, okay, go, then everybody 2 gigawatt, 5 gigawatt, then 20, yeah. And then there's a lot of curtailment within the Vietnam's infrastructure that cannot take. So maybe the Malaysian approach is on thinking the other way, like, okay, can I release slowly? So that's probably what they're thinking, which we don't know. I mean, they are high up there. They probably see things more than we do. So we are only seeing the micro aspects and the cross-border aspects, right? So like comparing different countries. So I believe that the basic ingredient or the basic DNA of Taiwan versus Malaysia are different. So maybe that's the reason why they are doing so. But having said that, like I said, the Taiwan is a net export country, net export, meaning the semiconductor net export. So these days, the semiconductor export, they require the green attributes, meaning that you must be carbon neutral to a certain level for some of the companies to buy your chips, right? So the natural crave for green power is bigger. And I think Thai power, to some extent, they are smarter in this way, meaning that they don't want to deal with the integrity. Like, you sell me, I sell him, you know, like, you guys go deal among yourself. And by doing so, so for example, if I sell to Thai Power, I get it at 4.5 Taiwanese dollar. But when I sell to a corporate, I get 5 point something. So that encourage open market. Then it's not government intervened. And that reflects the market. And that's probably easier for some MNCs to participate in this kind of market. I mean, that's sharing some of the facts. I'm not driving a conclusion that which is good or which is bad. Right?
Okay, so I guess this is very enlightening, as in open the broad spectrum of Asia, what is happening, comparison. Probably next we move to the topic of this technology innovation that will help the growth of the large-scale solar in Asia. So, and we all know that nowadays, the developer, the sponsors are benefiting from the very, very cheap technology, solar panel price, you know. What's your take on that, you know? We have seen from poly to mono to PERC, and then everything is faster and happening more faster than the Moore's law, you know. So what's the take on that? Probably someone would like to take this. Milan?
So we invented back contact technology a couple of years back, and that gave a tremendous boost to the panel efficiency. We are the only panel manufacturer that can achieve 25% efficiency in the world. And that opens the door for, you know, going to the 1 kilowatt-hour solar panel, kilowatt peak solar panel soon. That technology is in the very early days. You know, we're the first on the market. LONGi is now trying to pick it up, and you know, we believe that going forward, efficiency will be key. But I think in the broader spectrum, in Asia, particularly in Southeast Asia, where we are operating, most of us, is a lot of trends are following the mature markets, Europe, US, Australia. I think going into battery storage is going to be inevitable, and it's just a matter of probably months now until we start seeing significant deployment of battery storage in Southeast Asia. That has been slow for a number of reasons, but you know, subsidized electricity prices, LCOE being too high. Currently, we're looking at solar standalone LCOE average of 4 cents. Batteries together with batteries is 4.8 to 5 cents. Malaysia is doing even better than that. Malaysia with LSS 5 is probably going to achieve LCOE of below 4 cents. And once that happens, then you're going to have a very, very close gap between traditional energy sources and solar plus storage. And that's where it happened everywhere in the world, in, you know, in the more mature markets, in Australia, Europe, US. That trend comes here as well. So it's just, in my opinion, it's just a matter of months, not years, months, until we start seeing this happening, and probably the data center industry will start driving this demand.
Yeah, thank you for the insightful. So, um, TopCon have coming to the theoretical efficiency, 24.5% probably. So there are various trend now, HJT, and then tandem, and then this back contact, try to push the limit further. So that would benefits our goals, to achieve net zero emissions. So that is something that is ongoing and is beneficiating to the EPC, the investors, developers on this trend. So how about the other things, where the land use, it's very arguable that, we are green industries, but we are actually using a lot of lands, What kind of trends that you're looking at, as in installing solar at the mountain, hanging on somewhere, floating, and this and that? Can the panelists share some ideas and what is happening? Nearshore, offshore, floating solar developments. Anyone involved in those stuff? Yeah.
I think I can only speak on behalf of one of the projects we have at the moment. It's near shore. It's in Terengganu, and what IBWorks' usual method is to find the least productive land, so that way we disrupt less in the nature itself. So the land that we chose was actually a flood-prone zone, which is not very common for large-scale solar. But what we did was we suspended the panels about 5 to 6 meters up, and we allow the flooding to happen naturally in that sense. So what we do is we have trackers to, in that sense, to increase the yield, but also be able to, I think early on what we did, a bit different than the usual requirement in Malaysia, is to do a 100-year flood study, which is not common for a lot of Malaysian projects. Most of the time we stop at 50. So in this case, we do 100-year flood study, so we were quite well versed with what are the levels that we expect, and we're able to use lower productivity lands for these purposes. So in that way, yes, we reduce costs, increase efficiency, as what one of the panelists was mentioning, but at the same time, disrupt the environment less.
I see. There's very good to hear that. So as industrial leaders, to take the lead of try to use the less productive land for that purpose. So as for the other than this method, have anyone probably, Nazrin, can share experience about floating? You have done some very good, great projects for floating solars at a large scale basis. What's the experience?
Going to floating solar way back 10 years ago, I think, 10 years ago when the FIT was introduced. Going to floating solar was primarily driven because of landowners. They were basically driving up lease rates. So obviously at that time, we were looking into alternatives, and coupled with the incentives given by the government under the FIT program, we also looked into other methods of developing solar, because one of the thing that we heard, or rather learned from the market, is that developing solar on ground is not effective. You are basically eliminating other forms of business. There's no duality. So one of the things that the government also encouraged at that time was also doing agri-solar, where basically you put a roof on top of your, what you call agriculture projects. But agriculture is not limited to only growing greens, but also to farming. So from our experience, we've done both. So we do see what is better or what is more suited. We see that it's better to have livestock rather than greens, because there are limitations to it, and you need more expertise and experience. Ground mounted is a given. Water, yes. I think more so nowadays you see even the government has already allocated, I think, 100 or 500 megawatts, I can't remember the details, to encourage developers to go or to develop projects on water, floating solar. So one or two companies have also proposed to the government to develop a 500 megawatt floating solar, which from my experience, our company have a 50 megawatt DC floating solar. So it is actually a challenge. You know, the challenges are totally different as opposed to ground mounted. Ground mounted is something that you can easily access at any time. You do not need a boat. Now you need a boat. You know, and not only the boat, you also need to swim. You know, so when you swim, also there are also other things. You know, where you have to consider. You know, like the time amount of spent by the diver. So these are basically new things that we have learned. But not forgetting, the most important thing is that on the environmental aspects of developing such projects. On land and on land, you can actually see it physically, but on water you cannot see it. But there's also questions related to contamination, you know, regarding the material that you use, whether it will contaminate the, what do you call this, flora, fauna, the fisheries, whatever beneath it. So I think as we progress, we can see in Malaysia, similar to other countries, that land is getting scarce in a way, unlike possibly the Mediterranean or the Arab countries. They have vast open spaces, you know, which are much better suited possibly compared to us. You know, no doubt they have their own issues, you know, but I see that yes, developing into other areas of development of solar projects has to be explored. It's not a choice. It has to be explored, but also it comes with pros and cons that one have to consider.
I see. Frank, maybe you can add something?
Yeah, no, I think the floating PV is a very, in Southeast Asia, is a must-have. I think it's a lot of projects. We are doing a number of projects with industrial clients on floating PV in the last couple of years. We look to do more in Malaysia of those as well. But the reservoir seems to be very difficult to lease. But I would think the interesting trend we have seen in our clients' projects is on battery, so hybrid project. So typically our clients will put the roof, solar roof on our industrial clients, then the floating PV on the pond, industrial pond, and now we are looking at installing further either ground mount or floating PV with a battery storage in order to, you know, for our clients to go from 35% solar to 50% solar, basically, with battery storage inside the fence, behind the meter. So we're doing the one right now in Thailand, and that's our first one. We've done battery before, on-grid, hybrid, selling to the grid in US or Puerto Rico. What we are doing now is really behind the meter for clients, and I believe, especially if we get the Milan's panels and East Coast on batteries, we can probably do a lot of those in the future.
That's great. So innovation is very important. How about, you know, Dr. T? You have any things to comment on the topic of this? Your strategies, you know, towards this carbon neutrality.
I think for me, because I'm going to look at the context of Southeast Asia, because we know that Southeast Asia also contributed significantly to the global supply of energy. When you look at the landscape of Southeast Asia, we have around 700 million of populations. In Malaysia itself, we have about 36 million of populations. So when I look at the energy supply, I always refer back to the demand of all these countries. I think it's when you look at the country like within Southeast Asia, we have Vietnam, I think the largest, that contributed significantly to the solar power supply. And also when you look at the contribution of the entire ASEAN in last year, we have about, I think the contribution of solar to the overall contribution of renewable energy is about 3 gigawatt in 2023. So that, again, you know, when you look at the entire Southeast Asia, I think we have Vietnam the largest, followed by Thailand, and also Philippines, and I think back to Malaysia. I think all these countries also putting a lot of effort. They contributed significantly to the growth of renewable energy. No doubt, I think all the policies, all the initiative by the governments actually played important roles. And also how we relate to the carbon neutrality. Of course, that always refer back to the goal every nation set by certain years. So like in the case of Malaysia, we have 70% of a renewable mix by 2050. In the Thailand case, I think they actually make an announcement also to achieve 37% by 2030. So those are the goals actually set by different nations. That also again demonstrated that they are really ambitious in achieving all these renewable energy targets. Also, I think in the case of Vietnam, they have their power development plans. And in Cambodia also the same. I think recently they made an announcement to drive the renewable energy growth for the nation. So I think all these are really depends on the objective, and it is actually the collaborative efforts by everybody in the nations. It is not about the role of government, but also the private sectors played an important role in driving the success of energy transitions.
Thank you very much. I like to touch one important topic about, as the panelists here are all very active in Asia-Pac region. So what do you all think about this energy security as a Southeast Asia, ASEAN, grid kind of stuff? Is this a talk by those people up there, or are we able to materialize this within our lifetime? And how does this help on this net zero emission? Is the Australia projects has been revived from Australia to Singapore? And what's your comment? Is this doable stuff to make the whole grid are connected for the betterment of the whole ASEAN residents, you see? Because we believe that, as all the analysts says, ASEAN is the next growth region of the world. So can anyone comment on that? Are you guys working on any cross-border projects that you would like to share some lights? Milan?
So it's happening, and it's funny that the whole energy connection is driven by, the grid connection is driven by Singapore. It's basically one country that in the whole region is driving the force of, connecting the grids. But it's happening. Batam is happening. That can be up to 10 gigawatt. That goes to Singapore. Australia, Singapore, I wouldn't bet my money on that. Honestly, that is super funny. But Singapore allocated quotas for countries, Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, and by doing so, what they're trying to achieve is to connect basically every road leads to Rome, what they did before, and now Singapore is trying to do every grid leads to Singapore. If that happens, then the major beneficiary of all of that will be Singapore itself, because they have no land to develop their green objectives. But the other countries will benefit as well, because you can become a net exporter of green electricity at a very low cost. The other question is whether this is sustainable. This is a very long topic, but it is happening. It's on big scale.
Yeah, so this is something, food for thought for Malaysia side. Why most probably we have more resources, to take up this role as the Rome, not Singapore. Oh, very nice. Wear the hat of Malaysian, okay? So, yes, the last topic to cover is the future, So probably we go around the stage. For everyone, probably shared a few sentences about what do you think, yourself, your companies, what do you think that you can contribute to the betterment of these nations and the Southeast Asia with the technologies, with the things that you're doing, okay? What do you wish for, So we'll start from your side.
And to our panelists, we have 5 minutes left.
Okay. So I think just a quick one. In view of the future of the large-scale solar, because our topic here today is about large-scale solar in Asia. In the context of Southeast Asia, I think I think the demand of solar is still there because of a lot of demand, like data center, and also we missed something about green hydrogen. So I think that's also a lot of countries being they're trying to venture the business in the green hydrogens. So all of us know that the green hydrogen require a lot of power, and the sustainability and consistency must be there for the power supply. So I think one of the key takeaway here probably is about large-scale solar still a lot of room to go further together with the integration of battery energy storage system. So I say still very positive about the large-scale solar development in Southeast Asia and the entire Asia as well.
On the large-scale solar, I think we exclude Singapore. Singapore, I don't think they have the LSS. It's more on the Vietnam, Thai, and Malaysia. Probably these few economy driver. I think consistently for the past, probably 5 years or so, Malaysia government has been very consistent from LSS 1 or maybe LSS 0 to LSS 5. Has been very consistent, and they try to evolve to CREST, cross-border, CBAS, and now the CREST TPA. So you see the evolution right there. I think the Thai government is trying something new, right? We heard there's another 2 gigawatt of new solar farm things coming up. So as this gets up, we hope to have more predictable so-called development. I think the Thai side seems to be like, 10 over years ago, they have one spike of the 8 baht adder, 6.5 baht, 5.66, and then gone. 10 years after they retire the assets. Then they start another one. So that doesn't help the evolution of the technology also for the infrastructure in that particular location. And having said that, if more and more large-scale solar farm is put into the grid, so the next topic is also talking about the demand response, how battery storage come into the system at the substation level to balance the grid balancing, because we do not want to add a bunch of things whereby we disturb the grid. So anyway, these are the few things that I'm currently seeing, and for that ASEAN grid connectivity is a good idea. It's an amazing idea, but to get 4 or 5 governments to work together is going to be astronomically difficult. We don't know how this can happen and who's going to finance that. So these are the few key points that I think I can talk about.
Yeah, just wanted to share with you something I did recently on ChatGPT. I was interested to look at level of carbon compared to economies, how decarbonized economies are. So I asked ChatGPT, about 10 countries in Europe, all around the world. And I was shocked, actually, by the delta, the difference between countries. So the best in class, when you divide, say, GDP divided by carbon emission in million ton, you get the ratio, right? Number 1, Sweden, Finland, 10x. So 10x. And actually, Southeast Asia was at the bottom of the class. Japan was 4x. And I think Vietnam was the lowest at 1.2x. And Malaysia was 1.5. Thailand was 2x. So, of course, not great to be at the bottom of the class in terms of carbon intensity, but means also potential. Huge potential in Southeast Asia to improve and to get, even you get to 4 or to 5 or to 6 in the next 5-10 years. Huge potential for everybody in this room. The clean energy has a huge potential here. Now we need the regulator to play ball to enable that potential to become reality.
In the interest of time, I think I wouldn't create an overlap with the rest. So just as a request, I guess, for the industry itself, is actually to see a lot more skin in the game from other parties, whether it's the lenders, government, or even the likes of the utility companies. I think that's something that is lacking in all the policy developments, and also whatever we have put forward, we don't see a lot of skin in the game. At the end of the day, all the risk comes down to the developer. We see that even in the CREST and so on. So I'm just putting forward a request, but hope to see a lot more development in that sense and a lot more skin in the game from the rest of the members of the industry itself.
Thank you very much for stealing my thunder. Yes, I think basically I echo what my esteemed neighbor here. I think policies have to be has to evolve. You know, no doubt there'll be a lot more programs going to be rolled out by the government. You know, including the most recent CRESS and whatever program that's come after this. But policies and also involvement of these policies must be continuous. I think voices from the developers should be heard by the government, also the authorities, to make sure that this is sustainable itself. Otherwise, we'll still, it's fortunate for Malaysia today, as this is the first time actually I've heard from the other panelists, especially from the overseas developers, that we are actually at the forefront of this TPA, for example. I actually was very surprised. I thought we were still a laggard in this kind of areas. But taking from that position, I think the country, Malaysia, has a lot more things that it can do in order for it to become more friendly to the consumers, not only to the developers, so that everybody can enjoy at the end of the day. You know, it sounds a bit cliche, but you know, this is what we call what do you call it? For us to live in a sustainable future. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we're entering a race right now because we're reaching 2030, where most of the first milestones, carbon footprint milestones, will hit, and we're way behind. We still haven't reached the peak yet, despite all the development. So I think the next 5 years will be crucial for the whole industry, you know, to basically see where we're going. And there is going to be adjustment, hopefully upwards. There is definitely going to be adjustment. China is here the key word. Based on what China decides to do, I think the whole world will follow. Currently, China is subsidizing the whole solar industry. That's clear to everyone, I guess. The current module prices are way below cost. And with every solar panel we sell, we basically lose money. That cannot continue forever, of course. But that's opening a very, very large space for development for, you know, all of you guys. And I think the key really will be how far China wants to go. And if they want to go the extra mile, last year was 240 gigawatt. Once they start going towards the terawatt mark, then we're going to see, you know, tremendous upspring in installations worldwide.
All right, thank you so much for the panelists for the insights as well for this session. So thank you so much to all. So please give a round of applause for all panelists. Thank you so much for sharing.